Okay, this is Jimmy Jive, and you're listening to Motor City Rock Talk. Today, my guest is a lead vocalist that performed back in the day with a couple of really popular bands. One of them being Street Elite, the other one most notably, the Meanies. He also played in a duo called The Ex-Husbands. My guest today is Randy Cole. How you doing, Randy?
Hey, what's happening, Jimmy? How you doing, man?
Good. Let's start out with a little bit of background. Just kind of tell me basically where you grew up, where you're from, and what got you into music.
Yeah, well, I grew up from the time I was born until 76. We were in South Redford. And then we moved to Livonia, and that's where I started my rock and roll days. Anyway, as far as music, I mean, my dad was a music professor. My mom was a professional radio singer. So, I mean, I grew up, reading music the same time I was learning to read English. So,
cool.
Yeah, I started on piano when I was really young, about probably 6 years old, and then I played concert trumpet from about 8 till probably 14, 15 years old, and then I, wanted to be cool and meet all the girls and kind of started playing guitar and never looked back.
That's really cool. You say you started playing piano and you played concert trumpet. Now, was that when you were living in Redford?
Yeah, well, Redford into Livonia, too. I played in Livonia Youth Symphony and, did all the solo ensemble competitions on trumpet and have a whole shelf full of awards for playing trumpet. And I think my late father probably would have been a lot happier if I continued playing trumpet, but,
Yeah, the reason I bring that up is I grew up playing piano, and I played trumpet also in my high school jazz band and symphony band, went to Interlochen and all that, so that's really, really cool.
I did Interlochen and Blue Lake. I did them both.
Yeah, we did Blue Lake, too.
Yep, so that's when I was a trumpet playing kid, and then, those teenage years and the hormones start going crazy, and I went, guitar seems a lot cooler than trumpet.
Yeah.
And I went to school, I went to high school with Paul Grunwald, who I happen to be in a band with right now. He's playing keyboards and bass in my band right now, and I was playing trumpet, but I was still, I had an older cousin who was 8 years older than me, and every year for Christmas and birthdays he'd always get us cool albums. So like in 1972 I would have been 9 years old, but I had Deep Purple Machine Head, I had Grand Funk Phoenix, I had a bunch of really cool albums, so I loved that style of music. And Paul came over, who was already for his age a pretty darn good accomplished rock guitarist, and he started tearing up some Ritchie Blackmore solos and things like that. And I just went, wow, this is cool. I need to do this. So the reason he came over, I had an old really warped Crestwood bass. I mean, the strings must have been a half-inch off the top of the neck. And he went, I'll show you some stuff. So I was playing a little bass riff while he was riffing in my bedroom. And yeah, just kind of carried on from there, and I ended up playing guitar as well. And
so who were some of the bands that you mentioned, Grand Funk and that? Who were some of the bands that, really influenced you as far as wanting to get into music?
The first band I probably really got into, really cool rock band, would have been Three Dog Night.
Oh, yeah.
I thought the three vocals were so cool, and just the melodies, it was so melodic and cool, and I just loved it. And then, like I said, my cousin Paul, when I was 9, 10 years old, he was almost a senior in high school, so whatever the older kids were listening to, back then, I thought that was the coolest thing. Whenever he got me an album, I went home and probably wore out the grooves on it. So, like I said, we had old Chicago albums he'd buy us, Deep Purple, Rod Stewart, Grand Funk. And, then personally I started getting into, even though I was in the Meanies, it was more of a metal thing. I was always into the more melodic, kind of bluesy vocals.
Right.
Like Mark Farner, Derek St. Holmes, Lonesome Dave from Foghat, some of those guys that just really were cool with the blues phrasing and everything when they sang. And I love that style of vocals.
Yeah.
I think more than anything, more like a good bluesy rock singer.
For sure. So what was, if you can remember, what would have been the first band you were in that you remember performing with?
The first band, well, besides all the trumpet stuff with guitar and singing, would have been with Paul again, the guy, I went to high school with, who I'm currently in a band with too. Kind of went full circle there from my first band, which I'm quite sure this will probably be my last band. Yeah. So I started with Paul, and I'm ending with Paul. So we used to go, we started off when we were really young. I remember we played in elementary school. We did some things for some little kids. And then as we got into high school, we were the band that played all the high school parties, there was a girl, Kelly Rumford was her name, and I think she was a year older than all of us. So when we were like 17, she was 18, which was old enough to rent some of the VFW and AMVETS halls.
Right.
And she'd throw these crazy high school parties, and my band would play. They always got broken up by the police.
Of course.
The police would always show us, like, don't give us tickets, man, we're just the band, you know.
Right. What was the name of that band?
Rolling Out.
Okay.
And, yeah, we did all the high school parties, and, you know, we were covering Zeppelin and Sabbath,
Sure.
and, you know, everything. And until the police showed up, we'd get in as many tunes as we could.
Yeah.
Then everybody would scatter for the doors and leave us sitting there with all of our equipment.
Yeah, of course. Were you singing or play guitar or bass?
I did both in that band. The bass player, and then we had a bass player from, we all went to Stevenson High, and then there was a guy from Bentley, Ed Holland, who played bass in that band.
Did you guys do any originals at all, or were you pretty much doing covers?
Yeah, we had a couple original jams too. I think Paul had a old reel-to-reel back then, and he saved a lot of that stuff, so I'm sure he has a catalog from when we were little kids up until current music that we're doing now.
And you say you've got a new band going on with them, or has it been going on for a while?
I mean, it's not really a new band. With the singer Keith, him and I have now been playing together almost 7 years. We started as Hey You. We were a little more of a bit more aggressive rock band, you know, but we still tried to keep radio music. And what I'm doing now is basically just straight up, you know, rock radio hits.
Oh, okay. So covers?
Just covers, trying to keep people dancing and making the bar some money.
There you go. All right, well, let's step back in time. Street Elite, was that the band before the Meanies, or was it something else? Or?
Yeah, I was in Street Elite, and from there I went to Sinclair.
Sinclair.
From Sinclair, I went to the Meanies.
Now, in those bands, I talked to Matt Ruffino, who played with you in Street Elite.
Yep, and Sinclair as well.
Yeah, I think he said you were playing bass in that for a while.
When we first started playing, and then Jeff Trout came back into town, he played with Nicky Buzz from Vendetta. They had a thing going when I know Terry, and God, I can't remember the original guys' names, but I know him and Eric McDonald went and played with Nicky Buzz for a while. I don't know if Jeff was out of town. I think Eric came back from LA, and I'm not sure if Jeff was out of town or not, but he kind of brought Jeff into the mix. And I went to straight vocals in Street Elite.
Now, did that band ever, I know you guys played quite a bit, did you guys ever record anything as far as...
Yeah, we got on a 45. We had on a 45, I believe it was 1985. We put out a couple originals, you know, on a 45. Of course, we're not going to covers on the 45. We're not Van Halen or anything.
Yeah, isn't that crazy to think that, you know, back in the day you're putting out 45s? Are you guys doing anything as far as cassettes there, as demos, or just decided to put out a 45?
Yeah, we had all kinds of things out there. You know, back towards the end of Street Elite is when those Fostex 4-track recorders started coming out too, and we did so much of that stuff. I probably have hours of that, you know, where you'd record a couple tracks, bounce it down to one track to free up the rest of them, and, you know, by the time you got done, it was kind of a muddy mess, but it was multi-tracking anyway, which was cool back then. That was really cool back then. So. Yeah,
it really was, and it got you to be able to experiment a little bit, trying different things, and the learning process. So how long did those bands last? How long did Street Elite into Sinclair?
Street Elite, I'm going to say probably 82 or 83 until probably 85-ish. I know I joined Sinclair in 86, and I joined the Meanies in 88, so probably a couple years for each band.
Now, was there a reason that, Street Elite broke up, or just guys lost interest, or?
You know, I don't remember.
Okay. Just something better came along or something at the time?
That is a darn good question. Why did that band break up? I don't know. But I know Matt went on to play with a lot of other bands, and then we hooked back up in Sinclair. He was actually working with Mikhail Caldwell, if you're familiar with him. And then Mikhail, for some reason, backed out of the project, and they needed a guitar player, and I said, hey, I got a guy. And I told Scott Sinclair about Matt. Matt came in, and actually some of the tracks on there are with a guy named Dave Kadushin. I don't know if you're familiar with him either. He was a great player. The one really cool single we had out was with Dave on guitar. And then everything else that needed finish, Matt came in and finished up the demo we had. And we ended up pressing a 45 off that too, you know, a couple originals.
Do you still have any of these? In any way?
Yeah, Matt, believe it or not, Matt, I know has, I think, a box of Street Elite singles, or 45 still. And as far as the Sinclair records, a friend friend of mine, Craig Black, who was the singer for Sassy Cat, actually had Craig. A copy. He had a copy of the Sinclair record, and I didn't have one. He said, you could have it if you wanted, so that was really cool. I mean, just for me to have a copy of my record. So I do have one copy, and I think I have a couple of Street Elite 45s laying around, and like I said, I think Matt Ruffino still might have a box of those things. So
nobody's thought to maybe transfer them to CD and maybe upload them to YouTube or anything?
Yeah, they're on YouTube.
Okay. I wasn't sure, at least as far as the Sinclair stuff, if that was on there or not.
Yeah, everything I had here, I pretty much, I mean, it wasn't just, like I said, a jumbled mess on a Fostex 4-track or something. Everything I had that was ever done in a studio or, in a more professional setting, I've already posted to my page on YouTube. So.
Oh, okay. Now, what studios would you have been going into to record that stuff? Like
Street Elite was at Plum Studio. That was in Dearborn Heights at the time, and I'm sure they're long gone by now. Sinclair, we recorded at the Old School House.
Oh, right.
In Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
And we also did one of the Meanies demos at the Old School House, and then we did another demo at Creative Audio. And I believe that was Ferndale. Don't quote me on that.
Right,
it was that area anyway.
So what happened with Sinclair?
That was such a fantastic band.
Yeah.
And just there were some weird business dealings going on. And I think Scott got himself a little into debt promoting the band and, whatever else he did. And he kind of just took off for a while, to be honest. And that was kind of the end of that. I mean, it was his project. He was just phenomenal keyboard player. Yeah, he kind of just disappeared. I guess he, probably owed some money here and there and just decided to walk away from it.
Were either of the bands signed to any kind of, I don't want to say record deal, but a management type deal? Were you guys managed by anybody?
We were always talking to people. We had a meeting with Mike Stone back in Street Elite, who actually worked with Queen and a lot of bands.
Wow.
And, I think he may have booked us some gigs and things here and there. And, probably before we really had a chance to do anything like that, I was on to my next project anyway. So
right. The next project then be the Meanies? Was that what happened?
Street Elite to Sinclair to the Meanies, yep.
The Meanies, how did that come about? How did that band start? You had Ed Hillman, obviously. Bueller was in that. Can't remember the other guy's name.
Yeah, we started off, we had a bunch of drummers in that band. It started off with a guy named Darren Falloon, who was actually a really good drummer, but he had a different vision for the band. He was looking more to doing the glam thing. And if you know about the Meanies, I mean, if we showed up in sweatpants, you went on stage that way and nobody yelled at you for it. It was fine. Just as long as you went out and played good, nobody cared.
Yeah.
So we were a lot more laid back as far as the dress and, not putting on the guy liner and all that stuff. We kind of came out and just slammed, and that's what we did. So started off with Darren Falloon, though, and then we had Chuck Burns sat in. A couple of videos I have on YouTube, Chuck Burns is in those. And then when he left, Mike Alonso, who plays with Flogging Molly now, and then when he left, Bueller was just leaving Megadeth. He came back to Michigan, and we needed a drummer, and I said, let me call Chuck. Because Chuck and I went to high school together also. We both went to Livonia Stevens.
He wasn't in the band till after the Megadeth thing?
He was in the Meanies after Megadeth, yeah. So he came back and brought his Megadeth kit over to the Meanie Mansion and set it up, and he still had the same drum kit. So he had nice, well, not new. I mean, he toured with it and did all that, but so he had the kit ready to go, and we went out, and I think we pretty much got into the studio pretty quickly after that and recorded our second demo. The first one, Mike Alonso played drums, and then Chuck plays on the second one.
Now, the infamous Meanies Mansion, where was that located again?
Union Avenue and Inkster Road, almost right on the corner. It used to be a funeral home next door, and I just drove by there actually a couple of weeks ago. I had a client that I had to go see, and it's a suit store now. They sell men's suits. It kind of looks like the funeral home style building, but they're in there and they have all kinds of multicolored crazy suits in there. So but if you're ever in that area, it would be the I have to think your southeast corner of Michigan and Inkster. You'll see the suit shop directly next door to that.
Now, how long did you guys obviously rehearsed and everything there. How long did you guys live there? And were you living there with them? Was everybody in the house?
I lived there probably the first year, and then I ended up moving out, getting an apartment. It was getting kind of crazy over there. I had a girlfriend at the time that wasn't really too into the Meanie house, and I think, with all that, I just kind of went, I'm going to go get an apartment. But we kept practicing there, and I was still there quite a bit anyway.
Now, the Meanies were like very, very big in this town for quite a while. I remember that. You guys were playing everywhere, and everybody knew who you were. Did you have anything, as you mentioned, going in and recording 1 and 2 demos? Did you have any of that stuff for sale at your shows? Was there such a thing as merch for that, for the Meanies?
Yeah, we never really pressed it. I think we more used it just to kind of shop around. We ended up doing a show in New York. There was some sort of music festival, and again, I was just a singer guy waiting to get rich back then. And
right.
So we went to New York, and we brought some demo tapes with us to pass out to people and things like that. But it was never pressed or, basically just cassette demos back in those days.
You guys never did any kind of release at all, even after you got pretty damn popular?
No, we didn't, to be honest.
Wow, that's kind of surprising to me because your shows were considered legendary and the songs were just really mind-blowing for me, at least at the time and stuff.
Back then, too, I know Seduce kind of went to a different lineup with a front man and a drummer, and I know a lot of the real purists, a lot of the hardcore Seduce fans didn't really care for it, and our crowd started growing a little bit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of took off from there, but yeah, we played some great shows. Some packed houses at Harpo's and Ritz and New York, and Token and Blondie's and Shelter and St. Andrews and every place back then that was going, we were there.
Did you guys, you mentioned Harpo's and Ritz and all that, did you guys open up for like any national acts back in the day?
We played with, I'm trying to think, the Meanies. I know Street Elite did a lot of that. I'm trying to think with the Meanies if we ever really opened. We were more or less the headlining. I'm sure I'm forgetting something.
Sure, I understand.
People are going to hear and go, dude, don't you? Oh, we did. And as a matter of fact, now that you mention it, my brain just kind of kicked into gear there. I have on YouTube, I have I was doing a couple songs with Faith No More. We played with it. St. Andrews.
Okay, well, that would have been cool. That would be a definitely kind of band that I could see you guys definitely playing with. Did you ever take the band outside of Michigan, go on the road at all?
Yeah, I mean, around the state, but not really too much. We were kind of promoting it best we could, and, like I said, we did go to New York to a music festival, and we played a show at a place called Hot Rods. It was such a weird thing, too, in New York. The bars were so different. We basically walked into this place, and it was a high-rise building. So we walk in on the main floor, and there was a freight elevator. We moved all our crap on the freight elevator and went up to, like, the 10th floor, and this whole floor was just a giant club.
Wow.
So that was so odd from, what we did around here to playing there, going, well, we're on the 10th floor of this building.
Did you say that was like a festival?
Yeah, it was a showcase thing for some agents and producers and things. It was like more of a showcase show.
Were there any other bands that were playing there at the time?
I remember, and I don't know, I guess these guys were from Ann Arbor, but I do remember the name of the band was Andy Davis, like Alice from the Brady Bunch. So I remember they were at the showcase too, and I don't remember the other bands. I just remembered that because it was such a unique name that it kind of stuck in my head. So
after the Meanies, I know Ed played in a band called, what was it, Erebus?
He played in Erebus and he played in Nightmare.
Were these the groups that he was trying to promote out in L.A., or was this just local?
Was Ed?
Yeah.
Ed, I mean, he wasn't, I was probably more of a business guy than Ed was. Ed was the party animal of the band.
Right.
He was,
that's why I was wondering who was the guy that was doing the business side that you weren't.
Yeah, and as far as those other bands, I wasn't in either of those bands, and I don't know what they did as far as promotion or...
I just wondered if that's what he, when he went to L.A., that was what he was taking down there. Or did he just go out there to try?
Oh, no, they went as the Meanies.
Oh, as the Meanies.
I guess they tried out a bunch of other singers and couldn't find anyone to do my stuff, and they called me all the time begging me to come down there. But like I said, it was just a point in my life where I couldn't pack up and take off and go out there, and then everything kind of turned into a big mess out there for them, I know.
Sure.
And yeah, that was that. And then we did a reunion show in '94. It was the week before Blondie's closed on 7 Mile.
Yeah.
We played a Sunday night. It was jam-packed in there. It was great. I mean, it was in the show went really well. I mean, it was a fun, cool time to get back and play with those guys one last time. So Eddie's gone and Dev's gone, so a couple guys passed. And
is there any video from that last show? Do you know?
Yeah. There's if you look at Meanies one way or another, someone took a video from the side of the stage, so you can see one song anyway from it.
Now, do you have any videotape or anything from the Meanies days, or Street Elite or Sinclair?
Everything I have that was worth posting is probably on my YouTube page. Okay. And I know Dev had a bunch of videos, and he passed, and I don't really even know what happened to all his stuff. Who was responsible for gathering that up after his passing? I don't know. I know he had a lot of videotapes, and I got bits and pieces of some of them, but I don't have the complete shows.
I get you. Do you have any recordings, though? Do you still have any of those demos of the Meanies?
Yeah, and like I said, I think most of those are on YouTube as well.
Those should be on there also. That's very cool. Did you, at that time, since the Meanies, like, tried to reform out to LA, and you stayed behind more or less because you had commitments, had you, at that time, been playing in another band on the side, doing anything else?
No, honestly, I was just kind of sitting around playing an acoustic guitar one day, and Max, longtime friend of mine, came over with his 12-string, and we started strumming chords together. And there used to be a place, Mr. Mike's, at the corner of Ford and Wayne, and there was a really popular act, Ken and Chris, that played there. They kind of did comedy acoustic thing, and they left. And they were looking for a new act, and Max and I fell in there, and we were there probably a couple of years, I'm going to say, playing steady. And, it got to the point we were playing sometimes 4 or 5 nights a week doing the acoustic thing. So we did that for probably 20 years.
You guys doing all pretty much covers, so that you weren't doing
yeah, all completely covers. Then there was nothing original at all. It was just, playing bars and restaurants and keeping the people entertained. So we wanted to do songs they could sing along with. Sure.
You said you guys did that for 20 years?
Yep, 20 years we were the ex-husbands.
Were there life changes and all that caused you to leave the ex-husband?
No, not really. I kind of stopped being a lead singer kind of after about 2000, a little later. I kind of just quit singing because my voice wasn't working the way it once did. And I just got more into playing guitar. Got to the point where I couldn't be playing 4 or 5 nights a week and 3 sets a night. It's right. I was having some, like I said, issues with my voice, and I just wasn't up to it anymore. It got to the point where I didn't want to milk it. I just wanted, if I went out and did it, I wanted to sound to my ability, and it just wasn't there anymore. So I just got more into playing guitar and eventually started this cover band, and been doing that ever since.
So you're not singing much in the new band then?
Yeah, I'm doing backup vocals, but not the lead.
What did you say the name of this newer band is?
Right now it's called Wax Radio.
Wax Radio, okay.
WAX,
cool.
Like an animal, Wax Radio.
And I meant to ask you, how did you hook up with Max? How did you know Max?
I knew Max. We were both Livonia guys back in the day, but he went to Bentley and I went to Stevenson. And then we worked at a sales office together.
Oh, okay.
And from the music, just from Blondies and Token, and Max was one of those guys that was always around, and so was I back then. So we knew each other loosely back then, and then we became great friends, and I'm playing golf with them tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
You're quite the golf guy. That's pretty cool. A lot of rock stars turn into playing golf at the end there. Right?
I've played since I was a kid anyway. He did too. He has too. But
I had a band together with Max's friend, Mark Philo. Did you know Mark?
Yeah, you did mention that. I did that solo for you.
Yeah.
We used to practice over there.
Yeah, you guys practice over there, and I'd done this song because I got hired to write this song for this guy from work for this business deal. I needed a lead guitar, and of course Max said, well, let's get Randy over here. And I didn't really know you or anything at the time, and I know he mentioned who you were and all that. And I remember you took like 2 tries at it. You nailed it. I still have it.
But we have a copy of it somewhere too. I'll bet you I do it, a big spool of CDs somewhere. I'll bet you I have a copy of that somewhere.
Yeah, that was really cool. You did a great job on it and stuff. And like I said, to this day, I'm like going, wow, that was Randy. Wow, that was cool, because it was so long ago, and I'd forgotten so many things as far as that. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, because I'd seen a lot of your posts. So you tune pianos.
That's what I do for a living. I'm a piano technician. I tune and repair pianos.
How did you get into doing that?
My dad, probably 30 years ago now, bought me a piano tuning kit. I think I mentioned in passing it's something I may be interested in getting into. He bought me a real basic piano tuning kit, and I just started doing it and learning and absorbing any information I could. Now I've been doing it almost 30 years.
Did you have any kind of apprenticeship with somebody to learn it? Or?
Yeah, his tuner for a little while helped me out with a lot of things. The tuner he was using, like I said, my dad's a music prof, fantastic piano player. He always had a nice grand piano in the house. So yeah, his tuner helped me out with some things, and then books and just doing it. I started extremely cheap, and just people let me come over and wrench on their piano, and kind of like I said, I did have some knowledge going in,
right?
But you learn so much just from hands-on training, just from actually doing it.
I thought that was real interesting and stuff, because like you said, you saw your post. So you not only tune them, you can repair them too. Is that involving like replacing the wires or keys?
All that stuff.
Really?
Sticky keys, sticky pedals, replacing wire, fixing the action, fixing hammers, broken dampers. The list goes on and on.
And you've been doing that, you said, for like 30 years?
Yeah, I've been doing it about 30 years now.
Aren't you ready to retire yet?
Yeah, well, I always am. I'm trying to play the lotto. I didn't win last night again, so I figure it has to be my turn pretty soon.
You and me both, man. You and me both. Now, this new band that you've got going, have you guys been playing out? Are you playing any clubs or just doing parties? Or
Yeah, we were up to a few months ago. You know, the music seems to become so weird, too, these days. If you don't call yourself a tribute band, that's just kind of taken over. It's just taken over the market. It seems like every band around has changed to a tribute band now because they saw the couple that actually started the whole thing that were really good. I liked it back then, but now it's to the point where, oh my gosh, if you don't call yourself a tribute band, I mean, it's tough to book gigs at bars. So I started talking to an agent who is actually one of my dad's old agents, and we have some shows coming up this summer through him. You know, I think for right now, Keith, too, the singer's sort of on the same boat I am. I mean, the bar scene's just kind of weird these days.
It's really
we're trying to book gigs away from the bar scene. So
clubs, or I mean, like nightclub type thing, or
yeah, maybe some country clubs, things like that. Okay. We're playing a mall, Partridge Creek Mall in Clinton Township this summer, and we got a couple things booked. So we haven't really played the last couple months together, but we're gonna have practice actually a week from Sunday. We're gonna kind of get back together and brush things up and work on a couple new songs to get ready for this summer.
Now, is this a full band?
Yep.
So what, guitar? You're playing what, guitar or bass?
I'm playing guitar.
Guitar? And what other instruments are in the band?
Yeah, we have a singer who's Keith. Paul plays keys and bass. When he's playing keys, he also covers all the bass parts on keys as well. And drums. Yep, 4 of us. And Paul and Chris, our drummer, I went to high school with both those guys, and they're both extremely good, fantastic musicians, and there wasn't the weirdness of bringing some new guy in, because I've known these guys forever. And like I said, Keith and I have been playing together for years in Hey You before we switched it up a little bit and got these other guys in. Yeah, it's just a real smooth transition.
And I know you said you're doing covers. What kind of covers are you doing? Classic rock or pop?
Yeah, these days we do a lot of classic rock. I mean, we're even doing everything from like Collective Soul to even In Excess and Duran Duran and things like that. Keith and I made a decision years ago. It's a lot better just to play for the girls.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if a guy walks in a bar and there's a dance floor packed with girls, they're probably going to stick around and have a drink or two.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. You're right, man. You get the girls in, the guys are going to follow.
And that was the whole focus on this new band is let's get a lot more commercial. Let's play songs that people can dance to, can sing along to, and it's a blast. You kind of, a lot of this music I dismissed back in the day.
Of course.
I was more of a metal guy, and you kind of went, I'd never do that. But after you play it and really kind of dissect it to learn the song, you realize that some of that stuff's actually pretty brilliant. Some of the In Excess and Duran Duran and things like that, it's cool.
It's right, you're right. You wouldn't have thought about that back in the day. Speaking of back in the day, did the Meanies ever do any cover songs, or was it pretty much all originals? Yeah,
we used to cover a lot of old classic punk tunes, but we kind of put a little metal twist on them.
Yeah.
And try not to change it up too much, though, but, heavier guitars, bigger sound, more straight-ahead vocals rather than the punk-sounding vocals.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of, like, Addicts and Cockspur and things like that. Early in the Meanies, we did a cool cover of, well, like I said, the reunion show we did in '94. There's that video of us doing One Way or Another by Blondie. And, we had the big hit, Tainted Love was the big Meanies hit. We did some covers, and mainly originals, throw some old punk covers and some old classic stuff in there that we kind of beat up threw it in our set and went, sounds cool. Sounds original and it sounds cool.
Now, are you still friends with Chuck?
Yeah, he lives down the street from me. He lives about 2 blocks down the street.
And how's he doing?
He's hanging in there. He's got a really bad back. So, yeah, he's got some issues. I mean, as far as getting him in a band and expect him to play 3 sets, that would never happen. But him and I always talk about recording and, doing something. These days on the laptop, you can have limitless tracks and just mess around. And so we've always talked about getting together. One of these days, I'm sure we will. I've got everything set up in my basement ready to go. So,
and speaking of that, another thing you've been posting a lot about is wanting to move again. Have you made any decisions on that?
My mom is 94 and she suffers with dementia really bad. She lives at my brother's in Plymouth. So I don't want to move too far away while she's still around because we've not put her in any type of facility. She lives at my brother's house, so mainly my brother, myself and my wife and my daughter are her main caregivers. So a lot of times, a lot of my free time is spent at my brother's house caring for her these days. And So yeah, she suffers with dementia. She can't be left alone even for a few minutes. It's scary to leave her alone because she'll try to get up and do things, and she can't do that anymore. So
yeah, and at 94, even if she didn't have the dementia issues, there could be health issues to go along with that.
Yeah, I'm at Joy in Middle Belt. We're 1 block west of Middle Belt. So, if Middle Belt's busy, my street kind of turns into Middle Belt. There's so many factors. I'm just tired of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to go totally rural, but a bit more.
Well, man, I'm going to let you go. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and give me a little history lesson on the Meanies.
I appreciate you asking me.
Oh, absolutely, man. I got to go to your YouTube page because I'm going to have to not only listen to that stuff, but pull up some of that music and stuff to add to this.
A lot of golf and other things on there too, but I think I have probably 250 videos, so if you search for them all, you'll find out.
There's plenty of pictures out there of you guys from back.
You still once in a while have somebody come up and go here and give you a picture from 1989 going, wow, crazy. And yeah, there's stuff out there.
So you don't have any pictures from back in the day?
Yeah, I have a couple, photo albums with some shots in it that, people have given me over the years. So much different too. From everybody has a camera and a video camera with them now. So back then, every picture is like, wow, cool, where did this come from?
Yeah, no doubt, for sure.
Yeah, so I have some shots. I have a photo album of like all the bands and musical stuff I've done. And
yeah, you want to keep that, man. Don't ever lose that shit, man.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Randy. Like I said, I appreciate talking to you, man. Hopefully, if your new act is playing somewhere where it isn't too exclusive, maybe come out and see us sometime this summer.
For sure. Message on Facebook when we're playing. I'll let you know where it's at.
Get Mark and Max to come out there.
Cool, man.
All right, brother. Again, thank you so much for taking the time, and you have a good night. Go tune some pianos.
I just got done. It's Sunday, and I just got done tuning one before we talked, so I already did one today.
I'm sure you're probably booked up for the week, though.
Yeah, booked up for the month.
All right, man. Well, thanks so much, and you have a good evening.
All right, you too, man. Thanks.
Take care.
See you, brother.
Bye-bye. That was Randy Cole, who played in Street, Sinclair, the Meanies, the Ex-Husbands. Got a new project out now that's more or less a cover band. But if you haven't heard of the Meanies, where you been? They were just such a huge band at the time back in the, mid to late 80s and all that. I'm a little surprised they didn't do more of an official CD or some kind of release, but that's not for everybody. So anyway, I'd like to mention to you, if you like these interviews, and I've got quite a few more killer ones coming up, and you can do me a favor, hit the like button on this, and maybe subscribe, if you haven't already. It doesn't cost anything, and it just helps me know that there's interest in doing what I'm doing as far as time capsuling these great bands from the past. Anyway, like I always say, keep rocking.